All right, Dr. Martone, good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, you too, my man.
Yeah,
It's gonna be great.
I feel at ease. Like just relax, like this background you have, this office that you have, like I don't know. It's like I kind of want to just take a nap.
Yeah, trust me, me too. If we weren't doing a podcast, I probably would be taking a nap.
Oh my God. Do you nap? Do you do that?
I do, yeah. And when you're asking for a specific amount of performance from your body, and then you do that late at night, like I did last night, mountain biking, and your heart rate is really, really, really high before you go to sleep, you're done. I don't care what you do, you're not going to be able to get a great night's sleep. So the effective way to catch up is to take a nap at a specific portion of the day, and that's what I do.
Do you ever have any, just curious, do you ever have any issues like trying to sleep during the day or can you just like go?
And there are so many. It's interesting. Like there are so many techniques that we teach within our programs. Sleep is a head game. It's such a head space
Really?
game. So once you get it down, and once you're able to then work at it, sleep's an art. It needs to be mastered. And all these sleep experts, they're just telling you about the 5 stages of sleep, and it's sleep apnea, and sleep on this side because shit's going to drain better. It's like that makes no sense to the average person, and it made no sense to me with my my ADD brain. I'm a why guy. I needed to know. Nobody wakes up like me when I was a kid. I don't want to be a sleep specialist. Like, how boring does that sound? You wake up and you're a sleep specialist. but it once you're able to master the art of sleeping, you're able to get out like this. You won't wake up in napping. You're able to shut that brain off, but it's a very specific way you have to do it.
You got me so intrigued. I know you're going to tell us about your own journey. I would love to share mine with you as well. I went through a horrific event in 2017 that was the most god awful experience I think I've ever experienced in my life. But I'll share that with you if there's time. But when you say that sleep is a head game, like, so for instance, we'll use me as a guinea pig. Okay. The lights go off and I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed. And my thoughts just start going. Like, it's like all the best ideas come to my head when there's quiet and sleep and I'm trying to sleep. And then or I'm thinking about something that's overwhelming or stressing me out. And there are times, I would say it probably happens at least once a week, where I go to bed and I just feel wired. And I'm one of those people, I'm super careful with caffeine. My diet is really clean. Like I drink 2 cups of coffee a day and I don't drink any caffeine past 10 a.m. But it's just very odd how it just kind of like comes and goes sometimes like last night, I couldn't, my wife and I were trying to watch 1923, the first episode, and I could not stay awake to save my life. I completely crashed. So it's very odd even for me. Like, so when you say sleep's a head game, you got me really intrigued of like things that we can do when we're laying there. We just can't shut the mind off.
Do me a favor. Point to your screen, like your iris. The thing that's looking at us. So yeah, right there. Okay. So now make a circle with your hands and look at me through that circle. Look right at me, like we're looking at through the lens. I can't see your
Like that.
Yeah, there you go. Now bring that back to your eye. Just bring it all the way back to your eye. All the way back, back, back. Okay, good. Perfect. Now you're good. I just wanted to see how you did that. Okay. Now put your hands down. Are
It's
you
weird.
are you right-handed or left-handed?
So I'm right-handed.
Are you ambidextrous in any way? Do you do anything lefty?
Hockey. That's
Okay.
it.
That's where the issue is. Let me explain. So you have a cross dominant. You're a cross dominant individual. Your brain, in order to stay stimulated, needs to spin fast. It needs a lot going on. If not, it's going to be all over the place. So there's a lot of negative self-talk that comes in with that individual. So you're going to be a thinker in your own brain. You're not going to be able to shut it off, and you go in rabbit holes. And you will, like a tree, you'll go in multiple different holes and you're going to end up nowhere. So now, knowing that that's how your brain works, you have a suppression in 3 systems: immune system, digestive system, and reproductive system. Low testosterone, typically in that avatar. Low digest. So there's typically, if you don't have it now, but as you grow up, there's digestion issues, some heart palpitations. That stuff happens within that avatar. Now, that individual that's cross-dominant needs to feel protected when they sleep. So there's something that's called the sleep triune. It's the dance between the conscious brain, the subconscious brain, and the body. So the conscious brain, it wants sleep, like you're thinking, you want sleep, you want sleep, you want sleep. Well, the subconscious brain wants to feel safe, and the body wants to be comfortable. So when we put ourselves to sleep consciously, we're rolled up in a position that your conscious brain, in your case, thinks that you're comfortable, but the body is in a position that's unsustainable, but the subconscious brain feels safe. So you're able to fall asleep, and you're going to need to fall asleep protected. So what ends up happening is we have that entire triune reversed. So when you fall asleep, you're not able to drop down into deep sleep, because the average person with your avatar is going to toss and turn 20 to 40 times a night, because your body is in pain because you're not starting out the right way. And that's the problem.
Have you been in my bedroom?
Well, I understand. So I think
I'm speechless, man. I'm speechless.
I think maybe we start from the very beginning, okay? Because I had somebody crying in my office today because I put people's paperwork face down, and I can read neurology. I came up with this thing called the neurostructural protocol, where I can look at you and tell you what's going on before you even tell me. Because your neurology, your muscle structure and patterns, you don't have imbalances. You have issues with the brain. So the way that you stand and hold yourself is all about neurology. So if I can read that neurology, it's like a blueprint to what's going on inside. So then once you can read that neurology, then you can back in solutions. When I was younger, had herniated my own disc as a chiropractor. I was a chiropractor for 15 years trying to help people. And I myself had back pain every day of my life, and just attributed to my extreme lifestyle. I'm an extreme mountain biker. I hang glide. I rock climbed at that time. So I do all of this stuff, and I just attributed all this shit to me being, having ADD and needing to scratch the itch and doing all these extreme sports. But I had back pain every day of my life until my disc herniated. So I blew out my disc. Leg was numb. I'm in the emergency room. The only thing that helped me was Dilaudid. So I'm hooked up on one of arguably the most powerful, 15 times more powerful than morphine, because they put enough morphine in my arm at that time. They asked my wife if I was a drug addict in the emergency room, because it wasn't doing anything. And I've broken my arm, my leg. That was the most amount of pain that had ever been in the lowest low where I was professionally, because I'm sitting there in an emergency room. I'm helping, tens of thousands of people with back pain, but I myself had back pain every day of my life, and I couldn't help myself. So I'm sitting there, I get out of the emergency room, I get home, and I just started looking at x-rays. I reviewed 3,000 x-rays, and I started applying what I knew, because I knew that there was a pattern. I'm like, how the hell could this help? How could this happen to me? And then I started remembering, okay, laws. Let's base stuff on laws. And I knew I had to kind of come up with my own, way to be able to help myself. So I started basing things on laws. First law, the riding reflex. Body posture adjusts to head position. So what I found is when you lose a cervical curve in your neck, you're going to pick up a psoas major muscle spasm in the lower back, which is reactive to forward head posture, which rotates the hips. And the psoas is the only muscle in the human body that attaches directly to a disc. So I'm like, holy mackerel, I must have a psoas issue due to forward head posture, which weakened my disc all these years. And I'm like, when can I correct it? So I'm like, wait, I'm a side sleeper, but I should be able to correct this at night when I sleep if I can put my neck into distraction for 8 hours a night. And then that's how I kind of moved into the industry. I now am an expert on everything posture and how that posture affects neurology. So I got into the sleep world, not to help people sleep, but to fix their posture and structure while they sleep. That makes sense.
Wow. That is fascinating. So I believe you and I are, just by your description, you and I are probably wired very, very similar.
We are cross.
Like, yeah, like so like, for instance, like you talking about like the physical activity you need, extreme mountain biking and hang gliding and rock climbing and all these things. I'm curious because I train every day without fail. Like usually I'll take Sundays off, but I'll still like do some cardio or something like that. But for me, training is very, it's so therapeutic to me because, and I don't, it meant like, even if I got no physical benefits from training, like aesthetically, I would still do it for the mental and emotional benefits that I get from it. Cause I call my gym time my therapy time. Like that's where I can literally just decompress. I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't, I'm raising 4 boys. I'm married, full-time business owner. That's like the 1 hour, hour and a half a day that I don't have to answer to anybody. And whatever is going on in my life, I just leave it all at the gym. Like I just take it out there and I feel so refreshed, ready to go for the day when I do it in the mornings, because I always work out in the mornings. But, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a kid. I've never done medication for it though, or anything like that. I just didn't want to go down that road. But I find that when I exercise, it does help my brain power, right? Or like I can think more clearly. I produce more. I can communicate better. All these different things. Was that the same for you, that you needed these activities to just maybe calm you down, be therapeutic, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So one of the issues, it isn't an issue, it's a gift with ADD isn't a disease or a disorder. It's just a state. And that state requires a lot of stimulation to keep you focused. That's why stimulants work, right? That's why you have 2 cups of coffee before 10 o'clock, because you're actually more focused when you have the stimulation, which sounds counterintuitive. But our systems run high. I don't know how you, if your viewers understand the difference, parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems. You have survive nervous systems versus thrive. So we run so strong with our survive nervous systems, which that typically produces something that's called cortisol. So when you are sympathetic dominant and you crave stimulation, you're typically releasing cortisol, just as a state and just the way our brain works. Well, the only organ in the body, so cortisol, when exposed to a stressful situation, which we're exposed to a whole bunch of them, cortisol can stay in your system up to 5 days unless metabolized. The organ in your body that's designed to metabolize cortisol is your heart rate, is your heart. So the only way to metabolize all of that buildup of cortisol, being sympathetic dominant, is to have exercise, get that heart pounding with adrenaline. So what you're actually doing is you're spinning your brain. So after you're done, you feel calm because the cortisol's gone because you metabolized it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the science behind that. But you take that one step forward. This is why I'm in this industry. That cortisol, we were working with people for 10 years on cortisol and digestion, immune system. The theory that, or not the theory, the understanding that we're bringing to the industry and the world is not just being sympathetic dominant, but you're parasympathetic inhibited due to your structure of that forward head posture, causing the vagus nerve to be suppressed. And then that's causing a sympathetic elevation. That's why changing your sleep position will actually improve your ability to focus, function, and decrease anxiety, because you're increasing vagal tone by changing that structure. We're testing that right now in a college in Florida that specifically focuses on kids with ADHD.
Interesting. What is the best position for sleep?
Well, so let's go back to the sleep triune. Okay. I think that this is a really important factor to understand why we have to. It's not position, it's a corrective sleeping posture, because the position, you could sleep on your backside or stomach, and if you don't, well, more of them put different strains on the body. But even if you sleep on your back, which is the best position, if you're using a pillow incorrectly, you're going to just destroy the structure just as much as sleeping on your side or on your stomach. And the goal isn't to spend the whole night like that. Well, ultimately it is, but you only need to be concerned with how you fall asleep. You see, the body will toss and turn because it's in pain. And it will toss and turn after 20 to 30 minutes. So what we want to do is we want to reverse the sleep triune. We want to put the body into a position that is comfortable for the body, where your weight is distributed over the greatest surface area. There's something under your neck, and the weight of your head is off of the back of that support, gently distracting a curve back into your neck. And I'll show you that in a second.
Yeah.
But that becomes unsafe. It's an unsafe position subconsciously, because us with ADD, we need protection. And if we're sleeping like this, we feel exposed. So the conscious brain says, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to sleep like this, because the subconscious brain is unsafe. So the trick is reversing that sleep triune, is put the body into a position, create safety for the subconscious brain, and then teach the conscious brain how to get out of its own way. And that is where, when you asked if I can put myself right to sleep in the middle of the day, yes, it's because that most of that stuff is in the mind, and how you shut off the brain is really, really, really important.
Can you go over those three things that you just said just a little bit more in depth? So it has to do with the posture, the subconscious, and the conscious, correct?
Yeah, it's body, okay, consciousness, and subconsciousness. The consciousness is our frontal cortex. That's where we think.
Right.
Okay. So that's where all the, the roadblocks are, the negative self-thought. That's where, you think you can control the world. You can't think yourself to sleep. There's no way. If you're in your conscious brain trying to think, you're done. You're never going to fall asleep. You have to remember yourself to sleep, because your memories in your sleep centers are closer together. So here's the prefrontal cortex. Here's your sleep centers. Your memories are back here. So you want to focus on remembering as hard as you can versus thinking. Then the blood is in a different portion of the brain. The energy is in a different portion of the brain, and you will be able to fall asleep.
Interesting. So if I understand you right, and I'm not trying to oversimplify this, but if you're focusing on memories, like things that you've actually experienced, that's going to create more blood flow to the brain that actually will put us to sleep. That's it.
Perfect. That's
wow.
That's called simplicity on the far side of complexity. It took me hours and hours and hours of not being able to sleep to figure out that one fact. And I Googled it and I looked for it, and it just doesn't exist out there. It's because all of these experts are like, oh, fall asleep. Oh, how much sleep is the best amount of sleep? Oh, 8 hours. Where's all this shit come from? And then you also hear sleeping on your side. Oh, it's the best thing. Oh, sleep on your left side, sleep on your right side. What variables are you looking at? And you look at those research studies, and they're empty. So when you start to think about how the neurology works, and I'm a exercise physiologist, a nutritionist, a chiropractor. When you start to think about neurology, and the body really works, we don't have like degeneration in our joints because the body makes mistakes. We have degeneration because the body is adapting to lack of movement due to old injuries. So when we see that these aren't diseases that are uncontrollable by us, they're actually lifestyle, they're adaptations of the body to our lifestyle adaptation. So what's happening is our health is a product of our daily rituals. And we don't change because change typically requires moving outside of your comfort zone. Changing your sleeping position, I am going to tell you, sucks, right? Because it takes constant effort in trying to just fall asleep. You only need to think about the first 10 minutes. Put yourself into a position, which I'm going to show you right now. Put yourself in this position, put a pillow on your chest, put a pillow over your forehead. We have hundreds of techniques within our programs that we teach you how to make the body feel safe and shut off the mind at the same time. But start with the body. Start with what we know is alignment, because the structure of your spine, which we'll go over in a little bit, is critically important in being able to reach the optimal, or if you want performance out of your body and you want to have more energy and you want better digestion and you want the higher testosterone levels, you have to maintain a healthy structure of your spine, because it's affecting the neurology, which destroys everything once it's out of balance.
Interesting. Man, thank you for that. The other thing too, so memories real quickly, we have good memories, we have traumatic memories, we have all kinds of memories. Is there, when you coach someone or you tell, you're working with a patient or client and you're sharing with them in some sort of detail, like memories to tap into, what are you telling them to do?
So I'll give you, if they typically have to be rhythmic memories. What I mean by that is not a good memory, or a memory that there's not a lot of adrenaline associated with the memory. And then once you put and you have to, for some reason, I don't know why this is, but I kind of have an idea, but you have to fall asleep you can't think of something you did today. You have to have fallen asleep on that memory, and then you can think about something you did yesterday. Does that make sense?
That does.
For some reason, it has to be categorized before I can put myself to sleep effectively. And then once you put yourself to sleep on the one memory, put yourself to sleep multiple times on the same memory, and you'll fall asleep quicker and quicker and quicker. So I'm putting myself to sleep now on something that happened in December. I had a party. There were 115 people at this party. It was a big party. I count everybody at the party. I know that my mountain biking friends were in my mountain biking room. I know it was Sweet and his wife, and then his wife. So I go through everybody. Then I had, my lake life friends, and then I had my family, and then I had, people over here, and then I have my block people. So I just go through each person. I don't even get to the end anymore, and I'm out. Right? So because I go through every detail. Okay, this is where they were. Because you're accessing basically your dreams and memories. So you're just putting your body, you're putting your brain into that state.
Interesting. Wow. This makes so much. I wish I would have talked to you like 7 years ago when I was going through a horrible sleep episode. So can you go back to, so the neck, you said that there's something on the forehead, correct?
Yeah, I'll show you right now.
That'd be great.
So right now can you see that behind me?
Yeah.
Awesome. I was doing a podcast and I shocked out my my camera, and we ended. All right. So here's a neck nest. This is a pillow that we designed. But so if you notice, what I'm doing here is I angle the neck nest, and I'm putting the neck nest underneath my neck. Okay. So my head is off of the back of the neck nest, and it's not being supported. So basically my neck is supported, but when you support the body, you make the body weaker. So the body needs some force. So we're using the weight of our head to distract my neck back. Then what you can do, right now, I'm a little, I'm flat, but I feel like I'm falling backwards. So you can sleep slightly elevated. I sleep slightly elevated. That's why this position's a little off for me. And then you can take another pillow, and just put it over your eyes. Right? So just like an ostrich sticking its head in the ground, that pressure on your forehead creates a safe type of environment for you. So it'll be a lot, you'll be able to be more likely to fall asleep in that position.
Interesting.
When you remember, you put the body in that neutral position, then you have to create safety for the subconscious brain. We do that using pressure. We'll use sleep masks. We'll use elevated sleeping, so there are different things that you can do to do that.
What about a mattress? My wife just has a horrific time with her hips. Like she's just like, my God, my hips just like hurt, and I toss and I turn, and we have bought, I'm not kidding. Right now we have a Sleep Number bed on her side. Like
All right.
it's so
This is what you and me are gonna do.
okay.
I hate to even cut you off there, but that's our ADD. You're doing way better listening than I am, but I want to commend you for that. Talk to me. Let's back in the Triune. What position does she fall asleep in?
Always on her side.
Right. So that's unsustainable. So she cannot fall asleep. So the way we do this is try to watch a 2-hour movie in the position that you fall asleep in.
Yeah, there's no way.
There's no way. So her Triune's reversed. She feels safe when she's going to sleep. And more than likely, if she has hip issues, it's coming from her neck anyways, because of the way that she holds herself. So she's going to have, eventually ringing in her ears. She's going to have digestion issues. She's going to have a lot of issues that are associated that go way beyond the hip pain. Like this woman today came into me with hip pain and she's like, oh, it's killing me. And I'm like, you don't have a hip problem. Let me tell you what you have. You have an equilibrium issue because you hold your head to one side, then you're leaning to one side. Now that equilibrium issue is causing heart palpitations, causes, a little shortness of breath. It causes digestion issues, hormonal imbalances. Oh yeah, I have fibroids. You're going to have an issue in your immune system, your digestive system, and your reproductive system because of your position that you're sleeping in.
Wow. That's fascinating. So on the back, so you're using this pillow, you have something on your forehead. Can you tell me a little bit more about why on the chest then too?
What I do is I use a thick comforter on my.
So like a weighted blanket?
Yeah, you can use a weighted blanket. I only cover from my neck all the way down to my hips, and then you can keep your arms and your hands exposed. But it's just like swaddling, pressure creates safety. Like give somebody a big hug. That pressure is creating safety, and that safety stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is your thrive nervous system, which needs to be engaged when you sleep. You need to have techniques that suppress the sympathetics and elevate the parasympathetics. Pressure does that.
So that makes sense. My son uses a weighted blanket and he just loves it. I have to share this with you because, you aesthetically look like a picture of health to me. Like you look young, you look in shape, like your skin looks fantastic. I mean, I know that sounds like it might even sound super gay, but I don't mean it that way. I mean that because like
I'm 50 years old, man. Actually I'm 51. Holy
51.
51 years old.
So that's what I mean. Like you don't look like it. So you obviously what you're practicing is what you're doing. And like aesthetically, you look like an extremely healthy individual. And do you attribute it to obviously you attribute it to everything you've been talking about?
Yeah. So when you have significant highs within our lives, there are a lot of times of significant lows. And I went through a time where my best friend had just died right in front of me in a tragic accident, doing crazy shit, right? Just had, my wife was pregnant with our first baby. Then, I started drinking. I ended up, in a kind of a really nasty place. I was 205 pounds. I was, telling, everybody that, around me, oh, you got to be healthy, be healthy, be healthy. Then I had a breakdown mentally. My father said something. I have a great loving family, but he had said something that triggered shit that was when I was a kid. And now I'm curled up in a ball in a room, crying uncontrollably because I just did the upstairs. I just wasn't right. So when you're not right emotionally, your physiology, fat is a insulating layer to the external environment. So when you see people grow, that they're under stress that they can't deal with, or life is getting a hold of them. So I started going through this whole mental thing of like, what the heck is going on upstairs? So I went to meditation retreats. I denied I had ADD my whole life. So I started working on coming up with, directions, because I would go enthusiastically in 4 different directions and then end up down the road torn apart because there was a contradiction in one of the directions I was moving. Didn't know how to recognize contradictions, but to make a long story short, in order to your physiology, the way I look is based now on my daily rituals, because you are an adaptation to your lifestyle, and that's driven by your beliefs. So it's be, do, have. You got to be it, then you do it, then you have it. So when you look at somebody, and they seem healthy, to get there was a lot of, a lot of times, and I didn't have the mentors that I have now, but you're looking, if you're just Googling what to do, or you're online and you're comparing yourself to all these people that are, ripped to shreds. And as an ADD person, we compare ourselves, and that hurts us at night because we're thinking too much. And that makes us even more anxious. It's so hard to do. It sounds easy, but you got to work on yourself first in order to have it.
And did you notice that the biggest culprit was the emotional things that were going on? It was affecting like literally everything, your sleep and even how you looked physically and how you even thinking, like your thought processes and that kind of thing.
Couldn't shut my brain off, especially at night. I'd wake up, and what an important aspect, right, is if you wake up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. A lot of people do. That's a really, really addictive time to think. And you're waking up because of a liver dump. You're waking up because your body's toxic, or you're releasing some sort of toxins at that period of time. So I was able to fall asleep, but then I could never get back to sleep, because then you start thinking about everything. And the problem is, when you wake up in the middle of the night, it's addictive time to think, because your blood's not here, the energy's not here, and it's not fully here. It's in this midway in between both of the brains, so you can consciously access the subconscious, which you're like, holy shit, now you're thinking, and it's addictive because now you're figuring all your shit out. And then once you fall asleep, you wipe the slate clean and you wake up and you're no better off. It's almost like you're dreaming, right?
Yeah.
So you have to give in the quickest way to put yourself back to sleep is to try to just clear your brain and access a dream that you were in when you woke up.
Yeah. Some of those dreams, man, you're just like, oh, I want to get back to it. It was so good.
Yeah, exactly.
That is it. Can you speak a little bit more about digestion? I've heard you talk about digestion a few times, just as it could be a symptom of perhaps a lot of these problems that we're facing. We got a diagram.
You familiar with this nerve right here?
The vagus nerve?
There, perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So
I got my degree in exercise science too.
Oh, nice. All right. So the vagus nerve, right? It's a cranial nerve, which means it comes directly from the brain. It comes out from the brain and then goes down. It's 85% of all of the health to the Thrive systems. And the Thrive systems are the 3 systems are immune system, digestive system, and hormonal system. So if you have an issue with one or the other, if you have an issue with one, you're going to have an issue with one or the other, all 3 of them, because you're affecting the same nerve. So in order for the vagus nerve to function with ease, right? So picture watering a garden, and as long as you're not stepping on the hose, that water flow is going to be great. If you step on the hose, you're going to affect the flow of life, I guess, to that garden. I don't care what's going on with the garden. It might be the tomatoes that are breaking down. You can put all of the probiotics or fertilizer you want in that garden. If the issue is the structure, your health of that garden is always going to be limited to the pressure on the hose. So you're never going to get at the cause of the problem if you're not looking at the pressure on the hose as the issue. So the cervical spine in this curve, that's normal. And then there's relative ease within the vagus nerve. As we lose the curve, which happened in me, you're going to cause tension in the carotid sheath, which there are 3 nerves: spinal accessory, glossopharyngeal, and the vagus nerve. So you compress the vagus nerve, decreasing the tone, causing digestion issues. That's how the sleeping position and being on a computer all day long and all that stuff is causing issues in the digestive tract that are like ravenous.
And what types of symptoms do you normally see is it GERD? Is it constipation?
It can be anything. Usually, because I take x-rays, it's gas and bloating in the lower portion of the digestive tract. So that usually picks up with chronic fatigue. People that are chronically fatigued, I can take an x-ray and pick that up. They're like, oh, I don't have digestion issues. I don't have any reflux. No, it's gas and bloating through the GI tract. You're not digesting your food effectively, and that causes energy issues.
I noticed. So when I actually went to your website, it's the Beyond the Bed, right? So it's drsleep.com/beyond the bed. There's a gentleman, and it's a side view profile of his, it looks like a before and after to me. And the before looks like the head is definitely forward, but like his abdomen is, it looks quote unquote by society standards normal, but it's very forward, right? It looks like he's bloated. And then the after photo is his stomach is completely flat. Is that the gas and the bloating? Is that just overall better health because of we're not compressing the vagus nerve anymore? But can you tell me the story behind that photo?
Yeah, I have to. I can't remember which ones because I have so many different before and after x-rays on everything. That might have been an Instagram post. I'm not sure. But typically what ends up happening is when you have forward head posture, you're going to pick up a psoas major muscle spasm down in the lower back. That psoas is going to curve the spine. When you curve the spine, you also affect the sympathetic innervation to the digestive tract. So what you typically see is unilateral bloating when you have that forward head posture, especially if it comes down from the vagus nerve. So they will be distended. Now, when you lift up the head and you bring it back, immediately in order to do that, you're going to engage muscle tone within the stomach. So your stomach, so everybody talks about, oh, I have a weak core. You don't have a weak core, you have an uninnervated core. And that innervation is being controlled by the righting reflex, which states body posture adjust to head position. So if you notice, I'm looking up at my
I did notice that, yeah.
Screen, because if I look up, I'm going to engage my core because my body posture is going to adjust to that. If I look down, if you see people walking around like this, you know that they're looking down all day long because body posture is going to adapt to that. Your spine's like clay. It's being molded into the positions. So we all go to the gym and we do our crunches, and then we still have distended stomachs. You have a strong stomach, but you have an uninnervated stomach because the neurology is being controlled by the subconscious brain. That's why you can look at people, look past their symptomatology and look at what the neurology is telling you, and then be able to back in a solution from that.
That's so interesting. So for instance, I can only imagine people with their phones. Like, yeah, the way they call it, text head or whatever it is. It's like,
it's
text neck.
Destroying the structure.
So let's talk about some of that. Like I'm even thinking of like my kids, my two oldest, my 18 and 16-year-old have phones. And their heads are down quite a bit. Like what are the short and long-term implications of that?
Long-term implication is suppressed digestion, suppressed immune system, suppressed hormonal system.
So basically
the function of the vagus.
Yeah.
It's just done. Then now this, I guess we'll go here because the question was asked. So do either of your kids toe walk in their toes?
So my 10-year-old does, but he has no phone.
Okay. Now it doesn't matter if it's a phone or not a phone. So you'll notice that 10-year-old's nuts, right? So they typically are like, are crazy because they're leaning into brain atrophy, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is underdeveloped because of a specific portion of your brain called the vermis. So the vermis in your brain controls balance, okay? And in order to in order to develop the vermis, you need good balance, you need proprioception. Because when you have a weak vermis, you're going to have a weak prefrontal cortex, which is where your executive functioning is. So if you're leaning forward all day long, or even independent of that, if you notice a child's a toe walker, you know that they have balance issues and they have prefrontal cortex issues. So you want to do everything you can with those kids to work on wobble boards in balance, get them into, I don't know, surfing or hand-eye coordination sports, because you need them to build their brain neurology, or they're going to have problems down the road.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
That's like, so all of that is my previous life that brings me into, why sleep is so important. Because if they're using a pillow and they're sleeping like this on their back, that's going to further complicate that forward head posture. Maintaining the integrity of that cervical curve, to me, is where health needs to start. That's why within the sleep triune, I started with that body posture. And then once I did that, I was like, holy mackerel, I don't toss and turn all night. Why don't I toss and turn all night? You could put a glass of water on my chest, it'll still be there when I wake up. And now I had to think, holy mackerel, my spine's correcting. So these I didn't just come up with these. It really from, thousands and thousands of hours for me and my patients to really kind of figuring this out over the last 17 years now.
Wow. What about people who are waking up like let's call the 4 a.m. club, right? The people who are sleeping like 4.5, 5 hours a night at most. What's the long-term implications of that?
Well, that right there, that's, I do these, things on Instagram, right? These short reels. I'm doing 91 a day for 90 days. And I did one just on that. Like, how does sleep kill? Like, everybody's like, oh, sleep kills. Oh, sleep is, related to most chronic diseases, and, one of the, related to most chronic diseases that we have, lifestyle diseases. Well, why? How does that happen? Well, analogies. ADD brain works really good at analogies. Picture looking for performance out of your phone, right? You have an iPhone or whatever. If you want to have all your apps on during the day, at night, what do you have to do?
Charge it.
Plug it in, or it's going to die. So in the body, if you're going to run sympathetically high all day long, you need to plug in, which is get that parasympathetic nervous system stimulated so that your body is able to recharge. If your body is not going to die with chronic lack of sleep like your cell phone would, but you internalize that into this sympathetic dominant state, which puts us into survival, which degrades immune system, digestive system, reproductive system, puts the heart under stress, increases your cholesterol. So high cholesterol is not a problem as far as like it's not like an inherited trait. It's due to inherited lifestyle habits, and the high cholesterol is an adaptation to that lifestyle. So when you don't get good enough sleep, you're going to notice that your health is affected in all other aspects, just as being super stressed during the day does.
Wow. Okay. This has been, and you've given us a ton of like complex information, but you've done it in such a simple way that I mean, personally, I understand it. And I think the audience probably does too. So we've gone over a lot, right? We've gone over the vagus nerve. We've gone over the cervical spine curvature, and the health of that. We've gone over the three systems, the digestion, the hormonal, and the immune system. If someone is like, wow, this is really fascinating, and I might I might truly understand where some of my problems are coming from. What is the right next step for someone to do about it?
Next step would be spend 10 minutes a night, and we call it the 10-minute sleep ritual. Just putting your body into the right position, like we talked about. Either get a neck nest, get a nice soft pillow, something. Get that right under your neck, and just start sleeping or trying to fall asleep in a position that will be transformational, not just for your sleep, but for your overall health, because you'll start reversing the effects of the modern day lifestyle that have been complicated by poor sleeping positions throughout your whole life.
Wow. Well, where can guys find you and these resources? And if they want to connect, do you do anything like I know you have a practice physically where you live. Do you help patients virtually as well?
Yeah. So what I do is we have the sleep risk assessment, right? It's free. You can go to drsleepright.com to see how your sleeping habits are affecting your health. To what level? And it ranks you, it scores you on a scale of 0 to 100. Then based on where you score, we have different options, right? We have right now a fundamentals course, which is the 5 fundamentals, or the 5 pillars. We talk about positioning, then we talk about timing. We move into temperature, how to maintain your temperature. And then we talk about setting up the correct 10-minute sleep ritual, right? Self-guided, you do that online. But if you want more and you love what we're talking about, you really want to dive and take your health beyond the bed. In a lot of these topics, we talk about on monthly webinars. That is my membership program. You can find that's also out at drsleepright.com, where you can kind of dive in, be part of our group, and then you get all that content, and I help lead you down that path over about 4, 5, 6 month process.
And can you share just some successes that you've had with patients? Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm thinking about signing up with you myself. Sleep is since 2017. I'll share this with you. And I went through a horrific thing, man. So I was training for an ultra event. I was training for Mark Devine's 50-hour Kokoro, which is basically the Navy SEAL Hell Week for civilians. And me and 10 other guys were going to go. This was in June of 2017. We were supposed to do this. So I was training, and as I look back on it, like I had to get ready for 50 hours. So I was thinking, like, these 2 hour, 2 hour workouts that I'm doing, this ain't nothing. Like, I got to really rev this up. So I was going to the gym in the morning, working out for 2 hours. I would then do some sort of like body workout or something like that in the afternoon for like maybe another 30, 45 minutes, an hour. Then I do something at night, to train. And I'll never forget it, man. It was the end of February of 2017. I put myself through an absolute hell of a workout. It was horrible. It was like, it was a WOD, and I cranked out like 1,300 repetitions over 20 different movements. And I just kept going circuit and circuit. It took about 3 hours. And that night we had friends over. I'll never forget this. I went in the bathroom to go to the bathroom, and I'm washing my hands, and I looked up at my face, and I didn't feel right. I felt almost like physically ill. And I looked up at my face, and my eyes were just completely bloodshot, and I had bags under my eyes. I was like, oh my God. I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I just don't feel right. Tried to go to sleep that night. Could not sleep a wink. Got up the next day. I was like, okay, well, that was a fluke. And I trained again. And then I didn't sleep that night. This went on for 33 days, and I was sleeping, but I was only sleeping for about an hour and a half. I was lucky if I'd got 3 hours, and I was exactly like that. I was exactly like you, to where I would go to sleep, but I could never stay asleep. And like food wise, nutrition, wasn't drinking alcohol or anything like that. I was trying to do things as clean as I possibly could. That went on for 33 days. And then I mean, in that time period, I went to the ER. I went to my primary care physician. They tried to prescribe me a variety of different things that helped me sleep. None of it worked. And then I ended up in the hospital for 4 days. Lost 25 pounds over 33 days. I don't have 25 pounds to lose. And I have never felt so physically, mentally, emotionally ill in my entire life. And after I left the hospital and I was on a sleep aid, and I went through actually counseling for 8 months for PTSD because of how bad that affected me. And still to this day, like I'm sleeping fine, but on nights that I can't sleep, like those horrible memories will come back and haunt me. I call it the demons that come out at night. That's what I call it to my wife. I'm like, oh, the demons came out last night, and I start thinking about that. I'm like, oh my God, is it starting over again? And of course, that's the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. That's just like, and I can't think my way to sleep on that one. But ever since then, sleep has been my best friend and also my worst enemy. It's been hard, man. And I would love if you could share like maybe one or two just success stories of people who've come in and seen you and you've been able to revamp their entire life because of what you do.
Oh man, that's great. I'm sorry to hear about what you went through, but unfortunately, what you're going through is not uncommon, right? A lot of people have that problem. So I'll give you once. A guy comes into my office. The wife came into my office first and said, "You have to help my husband. He's falling asleep just sitting up when he's driving. He had a car crash because he fell asleep at the wheel. They're giving him stuff for sleep medication, and he can't. They're calling it narcoleptic. He's just falling asleep. He's just so fatigued. We're trying to have a baby. We can't have a baby. Why? Because when you're that tired, you're going to suppress the reproductive system. So I said, all right, let's just work with him. So I brought him in. What's the problem? Yeah, I'm having a tough time sleeping, right? So most people you think go to a chiropractor because of, pain, having a problem sleeping. I told them the exact same thing. You're having an issue with the two systems, sympathetic dominant, and you're burning yourself up because you're not getting enough repair at night. I said, first thing we're going to do is we're going to start parasympathetic techniques, give them some tapping techniques, right? I said, during the day, I want you to calm down. I want you to relax. And every time you calm down and relax, I'm going to have you use a scent. Just put a scent on your nose every single time. But you got to do it once a day, every day. Put a scent on your nose every time you relax. Why am I doing that? I don't care. You're just going to use a scent on your nose, find a scent you like, use it. So now what I'm doing is I'm training his brain to focus on his breath and his heart rate. As those things drop, it's connecting him to a scent. So then the last thing I gave, which was is you can't think yourself to sleep. You got to remember yourself to sleep. So I had him go for a walk and with him and his wife. And I said, what I want you to do is I want you to remember everything about your walk. I want you and her to smell flowers. I want you to walk. I want you to sit on a bench. I want you to do at least a 2-hour walk with her. Just go out. I don't care what you do. So he came in. He's like, all right, I did that last week. I'm like, good. Now, when you go to sleep, you're going to use that scent and you're only going to think about that walk you did. Everything about that walk, the step, when you held her hand. And so I created what I call a sleep memory in our program. So it created a healthy sleep memory that he was able to focus on. And I said, every time a thought comes into your mind, just get rid of it, clear it. Once we did this, we worked with him for 6 weeks. That's it, 6 weeks. And now he's sleeping. They're on their second child. And it's miracle stories like that really kept me, saying, you know what, we got to be able to take what we understand neurology wise and how the nervous system works in the balance between the sympathetics and the parasympathetics. And we can make real change globally through the sleep industry. And that's where we are now. Well, 17 years later.
Man, that is so cool. Cause I can only imagine like that type of experience and that trauma that she probably felt very unsafe. He probably felt very unsafe. He's probably just health wise a mess, but that's fascinating. So basically training the brain was like you said.
That's it. You train the brain, you'll get better sleep. You'll get what we call way better sleep. Awakening the full potential of a well-rested, aligned you. And that's our mission. And that's why when we had talked and you're like, oh yeah. So you have the neck nest. Listen, the neck nest is a pillow. I love it. It's fantastic. But if the why isn't big enough, the what will never matter. If the why is big enough, then you'll do whatever it takes to be able to, get what you want. And that's why I like to connect people to how much it's not just falling asleep and getting your 5 sleep cycles is important. It's the structure while you sleep. That is something that nobody's looked at. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
I love that, man. Very cool stuff. I also want to make sure that we have your social media handles as well. So it sounds like you're very active on Instagram. If the guys want to follow you on Instagram, where do they go for that?
It's at Dr. Sleep Right. Yeah, at Dr. Sleep Right. SLEEPRIGHT.
Got it. Dr. Sleep Right. I got it.
And that would be the same thing with drsleepright.com. And then from drsleepright.com, you have programs and then products. And the products is where the neck nest lives.
That's awesome, man. We're going to have all the links in the show notes for you guys. Make sure you go out and follow Dr. Peter Martone. We're going to have, like I said, all the links in the show notes. We'll have his Instagram handle. We'll have drsleepright.com. We'll have links in there for the neck rest and the whole 9 yards for you guys. Just go to thedadedge.com/Friday154 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/Friday154 for this show. Dr. Martone, this was awesome. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you myself. Obviously, selfishly, this was a fantastic conversation for me, but I know that, our audience, they are burning the candle at both ends. These are busy dads and husbands and providers and all that. And, the better health we are in, the better we can show up for the people we love the most. So thank you for what you're doing out there, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for what you're doing.
Bet.